So, leaking wee when you're trying to go about your daily life can not only be frustrating, but it can be embarrassing if you're not prepared. And here to help us take away that shame and advise how we manage bladder health and prolapses is Peony Lee, founder of Jude, a company created to help women take control of our bladders, which is very, very welcome. So please welcome Peony. Feel free to ask questions. If we don't have time at the end, we'll take some. But if not, Peony will be around to answer after. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe, for the kind introduction. Before you all think, what does a young woman have to tell you about the menopause? So when I was 14 years old, I suffered from really chronic bladder infection, so severe that I couldn't get through a normal day without waking up 3-4 times a night, going to the loo, pain, urge in the day, and anxiety, just full of anxiety. And at the time, no doctors would actually take me seriously because I was regarded as too young to fit into the stereotype of what usually deemed as what an older people is going to go through. And so I'm so passionate about breaking the taboo and breaking the stigma around bladder health. So today's session is about stronger together, empowering bladder health and addressing prolapse. I want to first actually give you guys a piece of interesting historical context to what we're talking about today, pee and urine. So it is actually one of the earliest forms of medical diagnostics happening in the medieval times. The vessel here that holds urine for health examination is considered as the symbol for medical profession. And the pregnancy test was invented about 100 years ago. And I asked the question, if only past society had continued our research into urine and bladder issues, we would have already unlocked many, many useful solutions to address today's 2.3 billion global problem. Bladder issues are experienced by, a third of our population and 1 in 3 people in this very room today. And so I'm on a bit of a crusade to fix this big disconnect of how many people are experiencing it, to the taboo that we have, and to continue the speed or pick up the pace of what historical society has been doing for us. So this is Jude. Stuff no one likes to talk about is all we talk about. We empower women to first open up a conversation, but we also have essentials and diet and behavioral tactics on solving urinary issues from a way that we're looking at, which is surgery or prescription medication that are quite invasive. On top of that, we also have now a 5,000 people Facebook community with women all talking about different kinds of urinary issues or vaginal dryness. Because, when women come together and have some fun and talking about their health, it is just the best thing that can happen. 3, we also have services like our bladder care diary and plans that we can offer you to pinpoint and identify what actually is the root causes. So again, it's a 2.3 billion people global problem. You're not alone. So some of you might already know or heard of gut microbiome, which is a set of bacteria that lives in our stomach. And recent research show that it is actually linking and can affect your mental health through this two-way link between our gut and our brain. The research that we have done has shown we also have a urobiome. What is fascinating is that urobiome, people with a UTI like myself, for instance, have a distinctively different urobiome profile to people with a different kind of bladder issue, say overactive bladder. But what is more fascinating, within the same condition, if you're suffering from UTI, let's say, people with depression also have a different urobiome composition to people without depression. Why that's exciting is that now we have a few more insights into how we can actively change our mental health, not just from our gut health and the food that we eat, but also our urinary health. It just goes to show urinary health is a lot more important than you think. So this is the linkage where we start to find there is also a two-way link between our bladder and our brain. So this crusade and this mission that have been going on do have a few quiet antagonists. One of them are major consumer corporates that have been thriving selling pads and nappies to people without addressing the root causes. And I think what this has done is to normalize incontinence, for mothers after childbirth, or for older women, people going into menopause, saying that it is part and parcel of being an older woman or part and parcel of being a mother, but that's not true. So we think bladder health should be looked at from a preventative treatment-led angle. First of all, let's look at the root causes. This is what we also offer at We Are Jude. So pinpointing and identifying behavioral tactics that can start addressing very easily. You don't have to pay, you don't have to pay any pounds or whatsoever. You just look at, and I can show you an example of my bladder diary later. What we also do is to look at how treatment and diet can actually make a huge difference. First, to your gut health, but also to your urinary health through urobiome. And so far, we have served about 20,000 women in the UK, not just our supplements, but also the way that we have taught them and equipped themselves with behavioral tactics. So that is the main comments. It is not waking up at night, really give me my freedom back. I don't have to use any pads anymore. So yeah, that is my bladder diary. I was telling you about how I have really extreme UTI. So I'm a busy founder that work whole day and sleeping very little. But I don't know if you can see here. I also drink very little throughout the day. 67% of women actually deliberately dehydrated ourselves simply because we want to avoid the need to go to the loo. So I don't drink that much, but I drink coffee and I drink black tea after dinner. Those are bladder irritants, which can actually make your bladder more overactive. And at night, I start to feel really guilty, so I drink a lot of water. At about 12 a.m., I drink a pint of water. And so I start to wake up at night quite often to go to the loo, and I thought, yeah, I have a small bladder, but actually that's a misconception. And I also see that I have a cloudy wee that I took. That can indicate that you have a UTI or bladder infection. Even a small amount of that kind of bacteria that exists in your bladder can trigger urge. So just by looking at this, I really solve some of the misconception that I have around my bladder issues, which is I need to drink more water, sipping throughout the day, start tailing off that water intake after dinner. And I also need to start cutting down bladder irritants like coffee and black tea. All I've done here is just looking at my daily habits. This is also what we did right in the heart of Covent Garden in London. Why do we do it? In the last decade, 60% of UK public toilets have been closed down. And we've launched a nationwide research to show 3 fascinating trends. One, you don't want to hear about this, is the upsurge of wild toileting. But 2, is this deliberate dehydration that is so serious. 70% of women don't drink enough to avoid going to the loo. It's not our fault, actually. But we adapt and adopted these tactics, but at the expense of our health. Number 3, it's even worse, social withdrawal, for the fear of not being able to find a toilet. So we launched a golden loo right in front of London. And what we witnessed really was nothing short of a revelation. people were queuing up for this golden sanctuary and quietly confiding to me about how the bladders were acting up, how they don't have a healthy relationship when it comes to the day-to-day thing that we do, which is peeing. And what is even more interesting, the diversity in that queue was astounding. Young adults, mother with children, healthy-looking men, good-looking men as well, grandparents, and people with a disability. And so that really illustrated to me how common and widespread this issue really is. It's also a little reminder to me, the 14-year-old me, there's no such thing as a stereotype when it comes to demanding better solutions for our health, when it comes to demanding more confidence, more freedom in the way that we want to live our life. And that really starts with better urinary health. Better urinary health means better mental health. That means better quality of life. So why are we still shrouded in this silence when it comes to the topic of bladder? That's another photo of me just campaigning and saying free toilets available. As you can see, taking a leak is not a luxury, it's a basic human necessity. So before I wrap up this talk, I want to give you 3 home truths that you can actually adopt tomorrow or today. Number 1, maybe a show of hands who have ever done a just in case wee. I definitely have. But actually, what you're doing is you're inadvertently teaching your brain to allow your bladder to go, even if it's not full. Over time, your bladder gets the message, starts sending frequent false alarms. And the more you do it, the more actually it reduces your holding capacity. So the more you think you have a smaller and smaller bladder. I know it's difficult because you want to have that sense of security before you go out, but keep in mind that every time you do it, maybe take a pause and think about, is that what my body actually needs? Also, when it comes to teaching your grandchildren, your daughters, or your cousins about this starts when you're young. If your young children knows that just in case wee is not a good thing to do, actually much better for them long term. Number 2 here, pee colors. When I was young, I was using the color of my pee as a key indicator to predict my next flare up, because no doctors would want to talk to me, so I have to resort to my own knowledge about this. So completely clear pee is not the goal, because clear pee might indicate that you're drinking too much water, lead to salt imbalances, which then means, never-ending trips to the loo. On the other hand, if you're at amber, then you need to hydrate more. Concentrated urine in your bladder is irritating, will lead to more urges. On the other hand, if your wee is cloudy, red or pink, it might mean you have a UTI, kidney stones, or something more serious. So please go to see a doctor as soon as possible, because untreated infection and UTI can alter your urobiome, which can then lead to overactive bladder again, urinary incontinence, and long-term, more serious issues. Last one, did you know there is the right way to pee? So hovering over toilet seats, again, I know it's difficult because there's so many dirty toilets out there, but it strains your pelvic floor when you do that. And when you do that, you also don't allow your bladder to empty fully, which you might find yourself needing to loo again shortly after your previous visit. So the best way to do this is what we call an elbow knee wee. So what you do, let me show it. Feet firmly on the ground, elbow on your knee. That's the best way for you to fully empty, but also relax your pelvic floor. So whenever you have a chance to be able to sit on the toilet seat, definitely do this. Last bit here. So I talked about diet and nutrition, and this is what Jude, my company, is most passionate about, because we believe what we eat does determine who we are and how we feel. So there are bladder irritants, and unfortunately, I have to break it to you, those are my favorite things. So chocolate, coffee, tea, alcohol, citrus fruits, tomatoes, lemon, and chili. Asparagus, although very healthy, they're natural diuretics as well. So I encourage to use the bladder diary that we have and start keeping track of the food you eat and the drinks you consume, because then you'll start to see a pattern. When you cut them down or try for a week of experimentation, you might just find that could be one of the key for your bladder issues. Fortunately, there is bladder healthy foods. Pumpkin seeds, clever but very unassuming. It's one of the best foods for men and for women to relax the bladder naturally, but also give you a bit of a boost. Soy, phytoestrogen, and estrogen, as you know, is a really important sex hormone for women. What they do, they increase collagen production in your muscles, and that includes the pelvic floor. So if you're eating more soy, if you're eating more phytoestrogen, or if you're on HRT or vaginal HRT, that actually also help you with pelvic floor strengthening and control. So pumpkin seeds are good, a Mediterranean diet is good, bananas are amazing, and pears are amazing too. And I'm very happy to say that our supplement contains about 71 pumpkin seeds, a daily dose. So if you're finding yourself taking 70 pumpkin seeds a day, our supplement is quite a good substitute for that. So you can find us today with Dr. Ann Henderson. We partner up with a lot of urogynecologists, 2 NHS trusts right now. And you can also find us on wearejude.com. There's a lot of articles about urobiome, bladder infection, all sorts of different stuff. But we also have a digital quiz and survey that you can do and to see what is actually causing some of the symptoms that you're seeing. So today, I would hope to leave you with this message of try to empower yourself to find out solutions and answers for your body. And if you're using pads and liners, give it a think. Maybe you don't have to use them anymore. Thank you so much. If we have some more time, I would entertain any question.
We've got a couple of minutes if anyone does have any questions they'd like to ask Peony.
Yes.
I'm really interested in the idea that we're educating ourselves from an early age. I've got 2 girls, and I have done, and I still do the just in case when we go out the door. So by how long is the sort of curve of re-education where you start to say, no, you don't need to go, or you'll be all right, or one of my daughters is at night time says, I just need to go again. Instead of doing that, how long should I be like, no, you're fine, darling? When will her bladder start to kick in and go, okay, I get the change?
Got you. So I would say we have a very flexible brain-bladder relationship that we can actively remodel. And so I think especially for young children, and also for ourselves, right? Like, it is not a strict rule we impose. We can't go just in case we forever. I think it's more about let's listen to our body's natural cue. Our body is wired in a very clever way that we just know we need to go at that time, especially for young children. And so once you tell them and equip them with that connectivity of knowing when they need to go, they will start to understand, okay, if I always do it just in case, it's not so good. If I then try to take a pause and think and reflect about it, I think it's just that brain connectivity that we need to start educating, children, even ourselves about that. So if, to be precise about the time, it can take up to about 1 to 3 months to, initiate that change.
Any more questions? No? Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so
thank
much.
you, Peony, for that excellent talk.
Lovely speaking to you all.